Hey, what's going on gamers? It's Ryan 6 days a week, and if you've been part of this channel for some time, you know that every now and then I like to dig into the game files and share some cool finds. Now, it has been a little bit since our last data mining showcase, so we'll start this one off by going over what has made it in from the last video, since it'll provide some important context on what we can expect in the near future. So far, we have seen the addition of the Orc race, which offers your character an additional strength point at the cost of agility, the Demon Berserker, who is a new mini-boss that is found exclusively in the Inferno map, the Cockatrice, also a new mini-boss but found in the Runes Overworld map, the various giant bugs, which are found in both the Runes and the Goblin Caves, a number of new cave art assets, as well as the introduction of the High Roller Goblin Caves, various new instruments for the Bard, as well as the introduction of instrument rarities, and finally the Warlock class, which utilizes the previously discovered Malice perk. From this point on, we'll be covering a number of new assets and concepts that are found in the game files but not featured in the game. So, this is your official spoilers alert. Alright, now for the really new stuff. Well, actually just one more thing before we jump into that. I do want to bring up these demons again, since they're important to the latest discovery that we'll be talking about in a little bit. It will all make sense, I promise. Just bear with me for a little bit more. Since Playtest 4, Iron Mace has been working on a number of demon-type enemies. This includes the Demon Hunter, the Gargoyle, not to be confused with the in-game Demon Bat, and the Imp. The Demon Berserker was part of this list, but they're now found in-game in the Inferno layer. Logically, we could say that these demons will simply be joining the Berserker there and call it good. Or, maybe another option could be that these demons become part of the Warlock summoning skill that was teased to us in the most recent Iron Mace Q&A, led by OnePeg, as SDF stated that the Warlock will have their first summoning spells, and maybe even a way to directly control monsters. These are both plausible, sensible options, and possibly even a combination of both may happen. Well, I thought this until I came across this small bit of data right here. I'll explain the importance of this in a second. First, we'll have to talk about map progression to really understand what this all implies. Iron Mace's original plan for how their players would progress through the maps was a 3-part system. Players would begin their adventure at the Runes, travel down to the Crypts, and then travel further down into Inferno, or Hell as it's commonly referenced. The asset names for the two methods of traversing the maps was down portals for the Crypts to Inferno transition, and down stairs for the original Runes to Crypts transition. Yes, the Runes once very briefly had red stairs that brought you down to the Crypts. These were called downstairs. Remember that, it's important. After some community feedback during Playtest 5 and various balancing reworks, the Runes were changed to a standalone map, and later on to a standalone duo map. Therefore the Crypts and Inferno remained as a paired journey, and the downstairs game object that connected the Runes ceased to exist. Well, at least up until now. Let's take a look at that block of data again. Here, we can find 3 different Inferno boss rooms under the Center Modules file system. This basically just says that these specific boss room layouts are always used as a center module in the constructed Inferno maps, one for each boss at the moment. However, a 4th center room module has now emerged and is simply named the Downstairs, which by exact name we can only interpret this as a gateway to yet another new map. Yes, you heard that right, something deeper than Hell, where more challenging and terrifying encounters exist. I don't think Iron Mace has given up on the 3-step journey they originally intended to design. I just think that instead of ending our journey with the Inferno layer, it will just be the beginning to our next one instead. Additionally, SDF also revealed in the OnePeg Q&A that the Runes map itself may also be the start of yet another progressive journey, giving our duos out there much more of an adventure. So, using this information, our map list may now be theoretically constructed like this. While we're on the topic, I would also like to revisit some of the overworld monsters that we've seen previously in the game files that we expect to inhabit the Runes map. We have the Runes Golem, the Harpy, and the Slime. This next section will cover the changes to these monsters as we went into much more detail in the last video. Starting with the Runes Golem, it looks like a new player debuff has been added to this monster, named Runes Golem Lose Balance. Since the Runes map is now a duo-specific map, I think this further confirms the theory that the Runes Golem will be this map's area boss, similar to how the Cave Troll is the area boss in the Goblin Caves. I couldn't find any details on the exact mechanics of the Runes Golem Lose Balance debuff, but I imagine it'll be some sort of damaging crowd control effect that happens during the fight. No noticeable changes to Harpies quite yet, but I didn't showcase the different variants in the last video, so here they are now, and they all look pretty cool. For the slime, it looks like some light model work has been done, and they're going to be 3 different sizes, named Slime, Mid Blob, and Big Blob, each with their own unique movesets. I imagine there will be some sort of splitting or dividing mechanic that connects the sizes. On that note, the Runes Slime Forest map module can still be found in the game's files, with some minor updates. This is where I expect we would find the slimes and some of the other overground monsters in the near future. Additionally, the tavern starting area has been reintroduced into the base camp file structure, reinforcing the idea that the runes and the crypts will have their own 3-part adventures, as they may soon have their own separate lobby maps. Now, onto the druid, or at least what I could find, which I must say isn't too much at the moment. So for this part of the video, please understand that limited data was available, and a lot of what will be presented will be based off of what Iron Mace has stated or shared with us. In the last video, we uncovered the Malice perk, which now belongs to the Warlock. We also discovered another perk named Survivalist Tongue, which at the moment is currently unused. The perk's tooltip explains it as a buff to all consumable effects, which of course is fairly general, but since it is not utilized by any class at the moment, we can assume that the perk is reserved for the druid. Additionally, we have a player debuff status named Howling Field. Not entirely sure what this could be, or even if it will be directly related to the druid, but I wanted to include it here because I couldn't tie it to any existing skills at the moment. If you have any ideas, please do let me know. For models, the best we could do is look at some of the assets taken from a producer found on their shared assets list. As we know, these art styles already fit thematically into the game, as well as mechanically due to having the same UE5 modeling structure. Here, I do want to add in this additional model to show a possible shapeshift form, maybe even one that would utilize the Howling Field debuff. Once again, this particular section of the video is guesswork and not data driven. I just want to showcase some things that I think would be related to the druid. Alright, now back to the real stuff. In the last video, we talked about some weapons that were found in the game files but haven't quite made it into the game yet. We have the Blacksmith's Hammer, the Kite Shield, the Magic Wand, and the Warhammer. As of Early Access Hotfix 12, we can now add in more to this list. Newly discovered weapons include the Bolas, similar to those used by the Goblin Bola Slingers, an unmodeled weapon named the Broadsword, which historically is identical to an arming sword, but it does seem to have a different attack sequence. And finally, a weapon type game object for the Quiver, which originally was just a game model bound to the bows. So for me, seeing this quiver in the weapons file structure does imply it will be a separate piece of gear. In the future, Rangers may possibly have to decide between move speed or reload speed with the addition of this item. Now, for other equipment, if you've been an avid trader, you'd have noticed 4 new amulets in the Utilities tab, in the Frost Amulet, the Phoenix Choker, the Torque of Soul, and the Wind Locket. We can actually match these to some icons found in the game files, which originally were categorized as the attribute amulets. Though they lack functionality at the moment, OnePeg did ask Iron Mace about future plans regarding magic resistance, and their response stated that they were working on better ways to build against magic damage. To me, this meant more ways to build resistance against specific magic types, as Dark and Darker currently has a number of different categories for the sources of magic damage. This includes light, fire, lightning or storm, arcane, water, dark, and divine. Now, if you've been playing casting classes, you're already familiar with these magic damage types, as each spell has their own color dictator. But these sources of magic damage are also bound to certain unique weapons. Note, there isn't a specific category for player dealt poison or disease quite yet, but I expect pestilence and the rogue's poison weapons to fall into that magic type soon. So, how does this relate to the new amulets? Well, I don't think it's too outlandish to say that their names will dictate their function in regards to magic resistance, maybe even beyond player sources of damage. I imagine this kind of magic resistant gear will aid us as we explore new worlds down the line. We're already given light as a utility that helps us explore areas of darkness, so it only makes sense that we'll need other adventuring equipment to aid us in exploring worlds enshrouded by not only the dark, but by various elements and enemies. Now, moving on, we have some new traps. Previously, we talked about an arrow trap and a rotator trap discovered in the game files. We can now add another new trap to this list, named Thorny Bramble. Compared to the arrow trap and the rotator trap, this trap seems to be much more organic looking and probably won't be found in the crypts if I had to guess. I imagine this thematically is most suited for the runes, or the deeper runes if they follow through with implementing a second layer. Here are 2 more variants that were discovered in the game files for your viewing pleasure. In this last section, I want to cover some utility and inventory items that are still floating around since our last video, but not yet incorporated into the game. First, the Adventurer's Backpack, which of course hints at an expanded inventory now that the character weight limit stat has been removed. And the Sleeping Bag, which the model seems to be a component of the Adventurer's Backpack, and it has player animation sequences for its use. As we know, our adventures are expected to get quite longer, with more items to discover as Iron Mace continues to develop the merchant intimacy and questing system. You may have discovered all of them already, but we currently have 25 monster-specific drops, and I expect more to come. The backpack could be used to expand our current number of usable slots, or may just add slots for specific items, utility, quests, or treasures for example. We still have these 2 lower inventory sections that are at the moment unused, so I imagine it somehow relates to that. For our stash, you can still find the coin chest and coin bags in the game data, which may be used in the future as coin storage. This will solve the issue of using gold keys as an alternative currency too, as they're limited by the number available in the market and can unfortunately be subject to price fixing, as gold sellers may hoard and ultimately control rates. We actually saw the effect of this most recently over the last 2 weeks, as even though the functional worth of the gold key was brought down due to the unlimited loot hoard nerfs, the market price for gold keys has actually more than doubled. Having the coin chests and coin bags as a vendor purchasable option, or as a quest reward, may bring down this kind of economic control. Alright, there's more I want to share, but I'm still trying to make sense of it all, so I'll save it for another video. But if you have been keeping up with the Discord, you may know that the word is out for a fairly large patch that will be releasing this upcoming Friday. I expect it to mostly address class balancing, so I don't hope to see these data mine game assets quite yet, unless of course they announce a wipe to accompany the patch. Then I will get excited. Also sorry, I haven't been as frequent in posting videos. The time I have spent in-game has mostly just been in HR as a fighter, as I'm trying to hold a top 10 position on the solo leaderboard. But of course, that is coming to an end soon, so I'll be pumping out much more content for you all shortly. Oh, and for the newer members of the channel, don't worry, Iron Mace is well aware of my data mining content. They did, however, ask me not to share any of this on their official Discord, as it does contain a number of potential spoilers. So, if you do want to talk more about this, or share some cool ideas of your own, please feel free to hop in my Discord, link below, where I'll make a specific channel for this kind of discussion, since I think we're all pretty excited about the future of this game. Alright, thanks as always for watching, I hope you've had some awesome adventures so far, and I'll see you in the next video.